It was a big year for the Fed, but your next guest is ringing the alarm about what's to come. Bianco Research President Jim Bianco is making a pretty scary comparison to what the Fed did in the run-up to Y2K, and he says history may soon repeat itself. Jim joins us now from Chicago. Hi, Jim. You're going to have to explain this one. I remember I was at a party and someone flicked the surge, so all the lights went off and freaked us out. But the Fed did something a little different.
That's right. Back in Y2K, when the calendar was changing 99 to 0, we all thought that the computers were going to read that as 1900 and stop working, and planes were going to fall out of the sky, and everything bad was going to happen. People were recommending at the time that everybody run to an ATM. This was before Y2K. Take out 2 weeks worth of money, go buy some groceries. And the Fed was afraid there was going to be a giant bank run and that the ATMs were not going to have enough money. So they created special lending facilities to stuff the banks full of cash and reserves to make sure they could meet those needs. Now, that never happened. But the banks did get stuffed with a lot of cash and reserves, and that, I think, was part of the fuel because the NASDAQ bubble was in full bloom. Now, to be clear, wasn't the only reason that we were having a bubble in the NASDAQ, but it certainly contributed. And the problem with all of these systems is not that you stuff the money in, and that's what we're doing now, trying to fix the repo problem, stuffing the banks full of money or reserves to try and get over 1231 for the repo market, which we did. It's in the future, in the first quarter, when you try to get out and you pull that liquidity back. You have hiccups. You had problems with the markets in April of 2000 when they tried to pull back. The Fed is targeting the second quarter, April again, to try and maybe get out of this process that they're doing now. And if they're not careful, pulling back that liquidity can be problematic for the markets that will have come to rely on it, which is what I think they have since October.
So, Jim, are you saying that they have to be careful not to put us into a recession, or that's not exactly the same setup because of what we had before with also that tech bubble starting?
Right. We didn't have a recession until 20 months later, but what we did have was we denied the market liquidity, and we did have problems in markets after March of 2000, especially in the high-flying tech sector, which was really moving along. I think that that's the problem that the Fed is going to have to face. It's easy to bury a market in money to get over a problem, which is what they've done with repo through literally today. It's hard once you've got that done to say, okay, now that I've put $400 billion of support into the marketplace, I need to take that back out. And I don't want the S&P to notice that I'm taking it back out. That's going to be the trick. And quite frankly, I'm not sure how they can do that without there being some waves along the way.
Well, Jim, I think the short answer is they can. I think you probably understand that. But let me ask you a question. What does the Fed see? Everybody talks about this repo situation being normal. In my world, there's nothing normal about it. Started in September. It's now basically January 1st. What do they see that the rest of us don't see? Or what do they see that they're not willing to tell us?
I think what they're not willing to tell us is they overregulated the repo market. They were so afraid that that market was going to be the source of the next problem. They put rules on top of rules. Now, to be fair, it's not just Fed rules. It's Basel III rules. It's Treasury rules. It's lots of other rules that they've restricted bank use of cash. The banks have come out. Jamie Dimon has come out and said, back off on the rules, and we could then start lending again and get past this problem. And Elizabeth Warren and Ellen Blinder, former Fed vice chair, and Sheila Bair, former FDIC, has all said, don't back off on the banks. Well, if you're not going to pull back on the regulations that you overregulated the banks, I don't know how you get out of this problem then if that is indeed the problem. If the Fed is a permanent supplier in this market, that's a credit market. You don't want them making credit decisions, even though they're collateralized loans. That will distort markets as we go forward. So they're in a bad place, and that's why I think after 3 months, they haven't got an answer for us as to how they're going to fix this problem.